Welcome to the Rise to Shine podcast with Noelle Kustas, where we ignite the spark to discover your favorite self. It is time to get real, ladies. Hello. Welcome to the Rise to Shine podcast. I'm your host, Noelle Kustas, and today's guest is someone who embodies resilience, heart, and the power of sharing our stories. Heather Olson is a speaker. She is a soon-to-be author, an entrepreneur, and someone with a heart to serve. She has firsthand experience with mental health challenges and is really passionate about helping others find their own path to healing. So I knew the moment that I met Heather, we actually met at a Business and Bubbly mastermind, that we were meant to be friends. And I couldn't be more thrilled to share her with you today. We are also, and we'll talk about this today, we are also collaborating on an upcoming book together. And I just know that her story is going to deeply impact those who need it most. So this conversation is going to be real. It's going to be raw. It's like two girlfriends hanging out together and just full of a lot of wisdom. So make sure that this is one of those cozy conversations that I say, grab your cup of coffee, find a cozy spot. Now, of course, if you're driving, you're a busy mom, I get that too, but you're going to want to definitely hone in on this conversation because it is going to be beautiful. So let's dive into this journey with Heather Olson. Hi, Heather. Welcome.
Hi.
So
How are
excited you're
you?
here. I am great, and just getting through a rainy day over here where I'm at. So it's nice. It feels like just very nice and cozy today.
Yes. It's actually raining here as well today.
Yeah, and
So,
we don't get that very often where I'm at. So we love this. I'm sure you probably get it a little bit more often. And, it does. It makes for a cozy experience. So
yes.
I am so excited that we finally got to do this together. And I just love that you are coming on here because I feel like your story is so incredible and just really is important. And so that's a reason why I really wanted you on here. And then of course we have these collaborations happening that I'm super excited to talk about.
Yes.
So let's get started with just introducing you to our audience and tell us a little bit about yourself and also kind of, what led you to become so passionate about mental health and healing.
Well, hi, I'm Heather Olson, and Noelle, I'm so excited to be here. I thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Absolutely.
Um, I have I've been a stay-at-home mom for 12 years,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry, I'm having technical issues here.
No, it's okay. We can pause if you want to pull up
Okay.
whatever you need to pull up. We can do that, and you can.
First,
Did I hit record? Okay, yes, we did hit record.
yes.
It's like I don't even know if I hit record.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. I'm
Okay, no,
so sorry.
perfect. You know what I'll do? Let's just start. We'll start from the beginning. And well, not from the very beginning, but I'll start with the first question. So we'll just do that again. So that way it feels like a good flow for you. So,
Okay.
all right. So, well, I am so excited to have you here. And I would love for you to just introduce yourself to our audience and really let you tell your story about what led you to become so passionate about mental health and healing.
Well, thank you so much, Noelle. I'm so excited to be here on your podcast. Like Noelle said, my name is Heather Olson, and I am a wife, a mom of two teenage boys. I was privileged to be able to stay at home with them for 12 years. And I have been a caretaker for my mother-in-law and a friend's mom for the past 5 years.
Wow.
And journeying through their dementia has been challenging for sure, but I am excited to share my story with all of you. And I thank you so much, Noelle, for being here.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I know that you have been open about your personal, health challenges. What was a pivotal moment in your journey that helped you to move towards your healing? What was it, however far deep you want to get into that? Tell us about yourself in that respect.
I think the most pivotal point in my healing journey was I was 35 and my husband said to me, "You're just so angry all the time."
Mm,
And in that moment, I had this realization that if I didn't do something to change that, that I was going to be stuck in that space for the rest of my life.
mm,
And so it led me on this journey to start to heal from the mental health challenges that I had been through.
mhm,
Um, some of you may know my story. I struggled with postpartum depression after the birth of my second son, and it led me to a point where I almost took my own life. And that very day that I had planned to do that, through what I believe is divine intervention,
mhm,
God God saved my life by having me break my leg in 4 places that day.
mm.
And has he's taken me on this journey of healing since then.
Yeah.
Um, I would say it's been a slow process over the past 14 years,
Mhm.
but I'm definitely on the upside of that healing journey, and I'm just so excited for the things that God is doing in my life and that is leading me into in this next chapter of my life.
Yeah. I love that, Heather, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for being brave enough to share your story. I know that it is not always easy when we are, being very vulnerable and sharing something that is, scary to say out loud sometimes. And what I
Yeah.
appreciate is I love that you also shared that this wasn't just an overnight thing where you made a decision and poof, you were better. This has been a 14-year journey. This has been something that you have been taking steps towards this healing, getting, doing the work, putting yourself out there. Um, and that's what I appreciate because I think it's so important, and especially when we're talking about mental health, that this is not something that just goes away. This isn't something that
Yeah.
we just, go, all right, we've got the tools for you. I mean, I hear so many coaches out there and just, just so many stories where it's like, we can cure you. We've got this, and I
Yeah.
wish. I wish it was that easy. I wish it was
Yes.
that easy. But I do, so again, I appreciate that you are being vulnerable today. I love that you're being brave enough and the fact that took you took the steps to continue to work. And as we know, it is a work in progress. It's still ongoing. And
Yes.
I also found what's fascinating about your story is the fact that there was some divine intervention there. And for me, I immediately, when I heard this story, I was like, yeah, you have a purpose. You have a purpose to be here on this earth and sharing. your story. And I know that that has been something that has come to fruition for you as well. Now, you know, for me, I know that storytelling has kind of become a bigger part of your work. So
Yes.
why do you think sharing our stories is so powerful, and how has it helped you in your own journey?
There's so much healing in our stories.
Mhm.
I remember the very first time that I told my story. My friend had convinced me to that she could teach me how to snowboard, and we went up the mountain here in Idaho, and she tried to teach me how to snowboard. It was rough to say the least,
Uh-huh.
but I think I fell down the mountain more than snowboarded down the mountain that day. But it was actually on the ride home. For the very first time, I felt led to share my story with someone other than my husband. My husband since has known my struggle all along,
Hmm.
but I never let anyone else into that place, into that. I call it the dark part of my soul that
Yeah.
uh I just had never shown any light on that part of my life. And once I did, not only did it burst out into tears and snot and everything running down my face, like, it
Yeah.
was, this moment of realization that a piece of my soul
Mm.
healed that day. A piece of
Wow.
my, like, deep part of my heart, soul was healed that day,
Wow.
and it just gave me this realization that there's so much healing in sharing the struggles that we've gone through.
Hmm.
And the other thing that I've noticed on the other side of that, when you're vulnerable, it allows others to open up and be vulnerable with you.
So true. Yeah, so true. And it leads me to this because I feel like, that darker place, that darker place in our soul. I think that for most women, there is a darker space, and maybe it's super, maybe it's a bigger space, maybe it's a smaller space, but there's again, it's like when we are on social media, or, even just being amongst our girlfriends, like, we're not always willing to open up and to share what's really going on behind the scenes.
Mhm.
And even our own feelings, because I feel like, shame comes with that,
Yes.
judgment. We have a fear of judgment, people wanting to try to fix us and tell us how we're supposed to be. The list goes on and on. And
Yeah.
I know that, in working with so many women now, that was part of why I chose to do what I do now, because as a former teacher, I loved working with kids and it was wonderful for 25 years. But in this space now, because I think of the self-growth that I've had and the work that I have chose to do, I notice that women struggle with opening up about their challenges. So what would you say to someone who feels like their story isn't worthy of being shared, or they're scared to share that?
I would say that small steps. Just
Mm,
find one person
hmm.
that you trust to share that with.
Yeah.
In an intimate setting, just you and that person, and just allow yourself that vulnerability,
Hmm.
and then it becomes easier after that first time.
Yeah, so true. And great advice, because I do, you don't have to shout from the rooftops, right? I mean,
No.
it's taken you 14 years
Yes.
to get onto a podcast and talk about it.
Yes.
It's not something that you shared your story and then we're like, I'm going to tell everybody about this,
Yeah.
it takes some time. And, so I love that advice that you can find that person, you can find that safe space and take those baby steps. And, again, I know that you would agree with this, that we have talked about, just because we have been on this journey together with speaking and writing and, knowing that everybody does have a story. And
Yeah.
stories are so important because it really is how we start to break the barriers of living in shame and living in this isolation. I feel like, we again
Yes.
as women we isolate ourselves, and sometimes it's not even intentional, but it happens.
Yeah.
And so I think really being able to step out into the world, and even if you're not ready to share your story, when you hear the stories of others, it starts to like chip away at some of the things that we're going through. And I know for you, you're starting to step into this world of speaking and writing in a much bigger way. So
Yes.
what inspired you to not just talk about it and, because you did say there was healing that came from it and I started to talk about it, but what inspired you to really pursue the path of, speaking and writing? Because not everybody chooses to do that. So I think it's extraordinary, and I would love to hear, how that came to be for you.
Well, I had a dream, I had a vision
Hmm.
of being on stage and telling my story, and that scared me more than anything because public speaking has never been a thought in my mind.
Uh-huh.
But the Lord just whispered to me and said, "How are you going to share your story and help others if you're not speaking
Mm.
in public?"
So you got called, girl.
Yes.
And you're like, wait a minute. Like, were you, because I hear this, this happens, and I have that as part of my own story, that there were some callings throughout my life. And, when you get that calling, how does it sit at first? Are you like, no way, I'm not doing this? Or did you jump right in? What was your path to that?
I There was definitely some moments of Jonah and the well, like wanting to run from this
Right?
because it was so far beyond anything that I thought I could do.
Yeah. Well, and as they say, public speaking is the number one fear, even outdoing a lot of times the fear of death, which I go, oh my
Yes.
gosh, because when you mention public speaking to a lot of people, they're like, no way, not going to do
Yeah.
it. So I know that, it's a big step. And when did you start your speaking journey? So how did that come about?
So last June,
Hmm.
Charity um, opened up her speaking training class, and it was a competition. So between me and two other women to have a spot to speak at the mastermind there in California with you, and I won, and to
Yes.
my surprise.
Well, and that's how we met.
Yes.
Charity is the founder of Business and Bubbly, in which I'm
Yeah.
a director for. And she had had a speaking course that it ended up becoming this competition that whoever won in the end of it was going to be able to speak at a mastermind that we were having here in California. And you won. And you and the other speakers did attend. I loved meeting all of you, but you got to share your story at that event. And
Yeah.
it was extremely powerful. We were literally like you could hear a pin drop. We definitely, um, I think there was just, even if you haven't been in a place where you have considered taking your life and, gone down that same path, There is something that resonates with every woman, I believe, that has to do with mental health, whether it be you personally, knowing someone, a family member, a friend, whatever that is. And then I also think that as women, I don't know, I believe that we are wired with this empathy and just, again, it's important to know. And it was important for you to share that story. And since then, we have, that was not even quite a year ago. And we jumped on the train to continue because then I was right there with you going, well, I want to get on stages. I feel like, again, it's all about storytelling and I love doing it on the podcast. I love, talking about my story now because I've done so much healing. Again, I wouldn't have been able to do this 10 years ago when I was still going through the thick of it. But now that I'm on the other side of it, even though there's still things that I have to work on, we jumped on this train of continuing this journey of getting on stages and speaking. And then we decided, well, why stop there? Let's collaborate on a book. So
Yes.
I am super excited about this. And, it has been such a personal experience to do this. So, what has this journey taught you about yourself, stepping into writing a chapter in a book?
Oh man, it has opened up a whole other set of limiting beliefs that I've
Uh,
had about being seen in a much bigger way.
mm,
And I can't even describe the growth that I've had that weekend that we met for that writing retreat.
yeah.
Just breaking free from that limiting belief of not thinking that I was worthy of being here in this space
Yeah.
has been huge moving forward.
Yeah.
Um,
And believe it or not, I am right there with you, right there with you. And I feel like all of us that are contributing to this book are feeling that in some capacity, just going, okay, it's one thing to share your story to your friends and then to go to the next level of getting on a stage and sharing your story. But then you start to talk about a book. And I don't know about you, but for me, there's this idea of the book doesn't ever go away. Like once it's out there and it's published, it's in writing and it is there like forever. And
yeah,
that's scary. That is really
yeah,
scary. And I've had to do that same type of reflection of going, oh my gosh, am I ready to show up in a bigger way? Because when you're done with your speaking gig and you've spoke on stages, like you're done and then you move on with life, right? But a book, it's like anybody can get their hands on that to hear it and to read it. So it does come with all of these things that we have to self-check with.
yes.
Um, in your particular chapter, because it is a collaborative book, so we're each going to be writing a
Mhm.
chapter that is going to share part of the story that we want to share. And so what could readers expect from your chapter and why was it important for you to share that part of it?
I do go deeper into my story and the day that I broke my leg. And since then, I go on to describe some of the things that have helped me on my healing journey
Mhm.
with um, with getting to a place where I can actually show up on stages, tell my story
Yeah.
in a much bigger way.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I love that we get to go a little bit deeper. So that way it's not just, the surface part of it, but we can really, talk about what it was that happened and be able to. And I love that you said, you're also helping other women throughout this chapter as well. So I am really, really, really excited for people to get to know you in that space, and you are absolutely worthy of that space. Again, I just know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God has you here for a reason, and unfortunately, it was, breaking your leg in four places, which isn't lovely. I am sure that was not a fun experience, but thank goodness. Thank goodness. And I am
Yes.
just so, so grateful. And I'm so grateful to know you. And I'd love to ask you this question because this is one that I get asked sometimes. And I just love different perspectives on this. But how do you prepare mentally and emotionally before getting on stage to speak about such personal topics?
I have been doing some meditative work
Hmm.
um, through our speaker training. That's what I used when I came down to speak on stage. I
Yep.
was still I still had a lot of nerves because it was my first time.
Yeah.
Um, I think this next time it'll be a little bit easier.
Hmm.
And then the anchoring has
Mm.
been I don't I don't remember catching that the first time around, but the second time I've gone through the speaker training, I caught the anchoring and that has helped me a lot.
Yeah. Now, tell us a little bit more about what anchoring is.
So you have a motion, mine is this, like
Mhm.
I kind of scratch at my finger and so you'll probably see me on stage doing that. Um but it brings me into this state of being able to show up in a bigger way,
Hmm.
in this bigger, higher vibration state
Yeah.
so that I can be seen in a bigger way and feel comfortable with being seen in a bigger way.
Yeah, so good. And that's what it takes really, you know? I mean, I know we've learned together that it takes a lot of reps. You got to practice,
Yeah.
it's again, it's not something that just happens overnight, it is
No.
a journey, it is a process, and there are tools and there are strategies. So what advice would you give to someone who feels called to step into something big? It could be speaking or writing, but they don't know where to start. What would you say to them?
I would say to find a training, find a mentor that can help you through that journey. That has
Yeah.
been the probably the biggest part of my journey is having charity to
Mhm.
teach me
Mhm.
how to be seen in a bigger way, how to show up in a bigger way.
Yeah.
And she is an amazing mentor.
Yeah. Because it's a skill, right? So like we
Yes.
know that yes, there's a skill to speaking, there's a skill to, becoming a writer. Anyone can do it. Whether you believe it or not, you can
Yes.
do it. But like you mentioned, it's always great to have a mentor or somebody that is coaching you through it, or a community, something that can anchor you into that space, because there are going to be challenges that come up for you, and not just within the skill, but like emotionally, mentally, like really being able to, I think you've said it, a few times, being seen in a much bigger way. And that's
Yes.
hard because,
Yes.
again, I know you and I both, like, we live in this humility place. And so it's scary to be too big, but we go, but
Yeah.
yet we know that God is calling us for bigger. And so there's kind of this teetering in that and learning how we move forward in that place. And you're right, Charity has been amazing. She's been an amazing mentor to help us all get through that. And then I have to say, being in a community is also beautiful because you can bounce off each other when you're going through a tough time. You can bounce off somebody else. And, there's just all of that camaraderie there, which is, such a beautiful experience as well. So I'd love to
Yes.
know, I mean, I know that I'm so excited. We get to speak at the next national conference for business and bubbly, and we are going to be introducing our upcoming book. But tell us, what is next for you with that as well? Are you working on any projects or goals, or, what are your dreams now that all of this is coming to fruition?
Yes. So the thing that I've been doing recently is I just put a prayer and gratitude journal out there.
Love
And
it.
also I have a big dream on my heart that God is working out. I will say that I don't feel like I am equipped for the big dream that he's placed on my heart.
Mhm.
But he is. So, um,
Well, there's a reason for that, right? And we know
yes.
that, I know with your faith that, you know, he puts a dream on our heart for a reason, and we may not understand it at the
Yeah.
time, and we may not feel equipped, but as we know, there will be confirmation. There will be things that will happen that God will put right in the forefront for you. We just have to be aware and open to it. And so I am so excited for you. I am excited for this journal, this gratitude and prayer journal. That is amazing. Such a beautiful, um, thing to, go right along with your chapter and what you're speaking on your message. And it's just going to be a beautiful thing. And there's definitely bigger things ahead. And
Yes.
I feel very privileged that I get to be a part of this as a friend with you and to continue working through this with you, because again, we know that this is a journey. It's always a journey. But
Yes.
Heather, this has just been such an incredible conversation. Your story and your heart for others, and again, just your willingness to be vulnerable, are truly inspiring. And I know that so many people today, women in particular, will feel seen and heard because of what you've shared. So if you're listening right now and Heather's story resonated with you, make sure to follow her, connect with her. We'll have all the notes in the show notes, and keep an eye out for our upcoming book collaboration, because trust me, you're going to want to read what she has to say. And as always, if this episode spoke to you, share it with a friend, tag us on social media, and let us know what resonated most. And then thank you for tuning in. And remember, your story, your voice, and your journey matter more than you know. And until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and know that the very best day is waiting for you right here and now. Thanks again, Heather, and bye, friends.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me here today. Your presence means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving a rating and review, and don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Head to the show notes and let's connect. Rise to Shine Co. is ready to support you in coaching, collaboration, life tips, or even a coffee chat. Until next time, keep shining, my friends.